Hello and welcome to another audition tape for Australia's Top Gear. My name is Alex Fellberg, and coming up later on I'll be giving you a little bit of a brief rundown on who I am. But first of all, I decided to have a look at what you do when you've got a family. Sure, you can't have a sports car because you can't fit everyone in it. So I decided to do a review on the Kia Carnival. The Australian market in people movers is a little bit limited. You've got the Toyota Tarago for $50,000 or the Chrysler Voyager for $55,000. But if your budget doesn't stretch that far, for $34,000 you can get one of these, a Kia Carnival. The Kia Carnival interior is a very versatile thing. It allows you to take seats in and out as you need to. The configuration I've got set up here is I've got 3 seats with baby seats attached to them as well, and I'm still able to get a double pram in the back. If you take the baby seats out and take the prams out, you've still got heaps of space for your fishing gear or bags for when you're heading on that holiday down south. As I said, with the versatility of the interior, you can change the seats around. As you can see, I've already taken one of the seats out. I've got the 3 other seats left in there with the baby seats in. And the other beautiful thing about it is the fact that we've got these sliding doors on both sides of the car. So depending on what side you want to get in and out of, you've got good access. Now, at 6'1" and 100 kilos, I'm no shrinking violet. But when I get in this car, I don't feel cramped for space. There's plenty of headroom, my shoulders are comfortable, I've got a comfortable armrest, and the seatbelt fits in the right spot. So when I get in this car, I always feel that I'm more than prepared to drive the family on a long holiday. You'd even be prepared to drive them across Australia if you had to. One of the first things you notice about driving the Kia Carnival is for such a large car, it actually feels quite small. It just doesn't feel like a large car. But the other thing about it is it's a bit like driving a boat in the fact that it moves all over the place. A bit of a side breeze really pushes this car around a fair bit. Okay, so what sort of quality do you get for $34,000? Well, the interior's got a lot of plastic in it, and the materials used aren't of the highest quality. But you've got to keep in mind the fact that this is the base entry model for people movers. And at the end of the day, it is fairly hard wearing, and when you've got a lot of people coming in and out of this vehicle, you won't notice too much damage being done to it. The dashboard on the Kia is quite a functional thing. Obviously you've got your speedo and tacho and your basic functions. Most of what you want to do on a day-to-day basis, such as your radio and your air conditioning, is all in the centre. One of the great features is the fact that we've got air conditioning controls for both the front and the rear, so if the kids are too cold, we can either turn it down or turn it up, depending on what their needs are. One very confusing thing about the Kia Carnival is the placement of the clock. Whenever I'm trying to find the clock, that is not the first place that I go looking for it. Now, when buying a people mover, don't expect some nimble sports car. You definitely are in a people mover. And this thing here has such a large turning circle that it's actually a bit like driving a semi-trailer. When you're at the local shopping centre, what that means is that you're never going to get into a spot first go. You're going to have to line yourself up, reverse up, and go in a second time. Once you get used to the size of this thing, and once you get used to the characteristics of it, it's actually a very drivable car. Okay, so I've already spoken about the fact that you wouldn't mind taking this vehicle on a long family holiday. Obviously that's going to mean a lot of driving on the freeway, so what's it like? Well, the first thing I noticed was there's a fair bit of wind noise. It took me a while to figure out that I could actually move the roof racks around and reduce some of that wind noise, but it's still evident. You can still hear it coming through the door seals. Probably once you've got the radio on and the kids are making all their noise in the back, you wouldn't notice it anyway. The engine is nice and quiet, the suspension's nice and soft. You could do 400 or 500 kilometres in this car, no problems, and you'd get out the other end and you'd be fairly refreshed. Okay, it's time to talk a little bit about myself. I'm 32, I'm married, and I have 3 children. I'm currently living in Perth, Western Australia. I have a trade background as an aircraft maintenance engineer, and I worked with Qantas for 9 years. After that, I went and did a Bachelor of Education to become a high school teacher in the subject of design and technology. You might know that better as things like woodwork, metalwork and technical drawing. I did that for 2 years and then decided that wasn't what I wanted to do, and since then I've been doing a variety of different mechanical based sort of things. Up until Christmas last year, I've been up working in Carafa on Rio's train line doing what's called non-destructive testing, looking for cracks and fatigues and things like that in their train line. What that's taught me is the fact that I can be away from my family for extended periods of time and deal with it. That was on a fly-in fly-out basis, 2 weeks on, 1 week off. My family and I, sure, we communicated on a daily basis, and with mobile phones and computers these days, that's not an issue being away from the family. Why do I want to do Australia's Top Gear? I think it would be a wonderful experience to be able to drive some really exotic sports cars at the highest level of their ability. Things like Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Aston Martins. But I think here in Australia we've got quite a unique market as well, when we've got the Fords and the Holdens competing against each other. XR6, XR8, you've got the S model, SS models and Commodores. Some of those are getting back to the traditional 70s muscle cars. I think they would be really good fun to give a good road test on as well. What sort of other things would I like to see on Australia's Top Gear? I'd like to see us have a focus on what sort of cars the Australian sports stars are driving. What sort of cars are Australian cricketers driving on a day-to-day basis? How about Lindsay Fox's car collection in Melbourne? I know he's got a warehouse down there that's full of cars. So look, this production may be not of the highest quality, but I've had to do it most myself. The camera is currently sitting on a lunchbox on the dashboard with a CD propping up one corner. And the sound quality is not going to be the best because I don't have a sound man. But obviously your applications say that that's not the most important thing, but it's to get to know the presenter themselves. I don't have a background in journalism, and I don't have a background in TV or radio, but I'm doing this because I think it would be a great experience, and you never know what the future may hold. So if you like what you see, well, obviously you've got my details in the application, and I'll just keep my fingers crossed and see what happens. All the best.